Welcome to Service Finding Operator Weekly Call. Today we have just one item and other than the standing topic. So if anybody else has any topic, please add into the agenda document so that we can pick it up. Or we can start with this first topic, that is Andy's walkthrough of the conformant test PR. Andy, do you want to share this one, or do you want to share the screen and speak? Is that
yes?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
How about I do that?
Okay, let me stop presenting then.
Right. So recently I've been trying to get
just 1
some
second.
work done.
Can you zoom in, make it bigger, slightly bigger?
Slightly bigger? Sure.
Yeah.
Is this any better?
The font size, is it? Yeah. That's okay for me.
Okay. If you keep running into issues, let me know. So what I've been trying to do is try to get on the spec side of things, some kind of conformance test suite going. I think my intent with this is just to kind of walk through the initial infrastructure PR that I've opened, because right now, at least in the main or master branch, there's nothing really defined yet. This is an attempt to go define out using SBOs, already existing acceptance test framework, to get some amount of conformance tests going. At a high level, basically what this particular PR does is we take one provision service finding acceptance test from our from SPOs acceptance tests, and strip out everything else and just have enough infrastructure, namely all the behave specific code we need, all the steps that we need to go define, and a couple other things, just to get that running off of anything that exposes the service findings.servicebinding.io CRD.
So, I mean, this is just the start, right? So
yes,
we need
this is very much the start.
Yeah. And this runs against SBO, right? Right now, this whatever this PR, we can run it against.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I haven't tested with like the upstream reference implementation at all. I've largely just been testing against SPO for now.
Okay. And I hope our plan would be to make this with some GitHub actions to trigger it automatically, maybe periodically, or on a scheduled basis, something like that, right? Is that the idea, or trigger it against PR? Is that would be?
I think long term the intention should be at least for the reference implementation. Once more tests land here, yes, have some kind of GitHub Actions or some other kind of CI that runs this on any branch that comes in or any PR that comes in.
And just one something I noticed in the environment. So I can see it is still referring to OC or OpenShift client. Should we just use kubectl everywhere, or do you want to make it? Are you proposing to use both OC as well as kubectl? Okay, okay, it's overridden already. Yeah, sorry, I noticed in the class declaration.
Yes, that should probably go get changed. Just
Okay.
go default to kubectl anyway.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, I hope this would be a good addition. I hope I'm waiting for others' inputs also. If anybody else has some thoughts to share.
Yes, as I said earlier in a separate call, I'm hoping to have some discussion on this at the working group call later today, just to get some more specific feedback, and if there's anything that they think we can do differently here.
Just another thought coming up my mind is that in general, I noticed that Go language is the most preferred choice in most of these Kubernetes or this kind of commentaries. But this is written in Python. I hope that won't be a yeah. I mean, difficult choice, or people. I don't know how that's going to be taken up.
Yes. I feel like that will be a point that is raised.
Let's see. No, anyway, I think you're going to be a lot of mic shedding on today's spec call.
Yes, that is probably an accurate statement. One thing I should note, I have attempted to get rid of all the code that isn't actually referenced, or isn't actually used by the example test I defined. But I feel like I didn't get everything. I got most things out, especially things like behaves steps. But I don't think I may not have gotten everything out of some of the helper things we go to find. One thing I already made a comment about, and this is probably a better question for the spec working group. I currently still use the generic application we defined and wrote for testing on SBO. And while I'd like to reuse it, I think tying ourselves specifically to SBO's specific image isn't a really good idea. And we may need to go add functionality later on down the line, specifically for testing snap behavior.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't need to, but we have the potential of doing that. And so the open question is, who wants to take ownership, and how do we want to manage control of this application?
And what kind of functionality you think is missing at the moment?
I don't think anything is missing right now. I'm just giving ourselves the option of, if we need to add anything else, we don't need to rely on downstream SBO.
Yeah, maybe we need the source code for this app also somewhere, so that we can rebuild it if required. We have that in our source tree, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, Andy, you can include that in the PR. That's like one tiny folder with Dockerfile, a couple of scripts. So I think it's probably worth of including that to avoid, say, an unnecessary discussion about that. For example, what's this application doing and how it's structured and so on. So I think it's worth of adding it to the PR.
Okay, I will add that in for you. Spec call today.
Yeah. Another thing, GitHub provides this, what they call a Docker registry, basically. So we could make use that. So we don't need. This again, if there is any concern to use Query.io, okay. And for example, I did this for the service binding controller, the reference implementation. We have a pipeline workflow set up to release this images, Docker images into the GitHub registry. So we could do something similar for this one also. So we need not to use the Query.io to publish the image, the testing image.
I can look into that. I'm not sure if we'll have any kind of implementation for the spec call today, but I can definitely look into that for the future.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments from anybody else related to this effort? And is taking up regarding conformant test for this spec, or that means any implementation could use this. Sorry. Yes, we could move on to next topic. Okay, I can see Steven already added something.
Yeah, so last week we have spoken about an interesting use case which was brought up by the Wildfly team, because what they were doing is that they were trying to build an application inside of code-ready workspace and use service binding to do the binding between this application and manage Kafka. So we have been discussing about it, and we have been discussing a little bit about the experience, because as part of this experience, there is a restart that is needed for the workspace in order to get the service, the binding data being injected into the workspace and available to the application that is running inside of the workspace. So this is kind of an expected behavior from both Che and code-ready workspace, and also from the service binding side. But we have discussed about the potential opportunities that we may have in order to avoid restarting the workspace, because when we restart the workspace, we restart all the tools and everything. So we wanted to have a look at how we can potentially improve that. And we have Mario who joined today. So thank you, Mario, for joining to discuss and brainstorm a little bit about that, and following up on the different discussions that we had last week, in fact. So, and I think, Predrag, maybe you can give us a heads up, because you also said that you will be looking a bit more into the details of this sample.
I must honestly say I didn't have time to look at this week. I can just kind of repeat what is my kind of guess, and I hope Mario can either confirm or like deny my thought. But my idea is like probably that the resource which describes the workspace and the controller is not really restarting the pods once, say, a secret got injected or referred, or that resource got kind of modified. And the workaround is to reduce the number of replicas to 0 and then to 1, and then you're going to get updated the pods with the secrets. But just want to understand, I would say that the work is not on the service binding side, but probably more on the work, what is the code-ready workspace side, right? So that's just purely my guess. I didn't have time to verify that.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Prolak. So hello everyone. So I'm working on code-ready workspaces, and yeah, I've been commenting on the issue. It's one of the first time that we hear such a use case. I think it's interesting to analyze that. One thing that we saw is that I think there is something to discuss about. I don't know if it's code-ready workspaces side or service binding side, is what actually the service binding operator will. So how can we trigger the creation of the secret for code-ready workspaces to consume? So that's something that I think yeah, that's actually the question that we had.
Yeah, and I think if you think about the workflow and the natural context, is it the developer is in his developer environment, and the developer environment is remote, working on the cluster directly, so it has access to the different services that are available from the cluster. And at some point he says, okay, now I want to connect to my managed Kafka instance. So the natural flow with our tools will be to do that with SBO, in fact. So you create a service binding resource, and you get the binding data that are getting available to the application, and the application can then leverage that to connect to manage Kafka. I do believe that it's also maybe an opportunity for service binding to differentiate from the upstream implementation, in the sense that we might be able to detect that we are going to bind into an application that is running inside of a workspace. So we need to act a little bit differently. And we need to look at how we can have the two products better working together. It doesn't mean that there is somebody that is doing something wrong, but it's more how we can make the products working together and speaking well to each other. And if I remember properly, in a Che workspace, there is a special way to pass the secrets, if I'm not mistaken. Or a special way.
Yeah, yeah, there is secrets that have a particular label and annotation will be automatically mounted or injected as environment variable depending on the annotation.
Is it mounted at workspace startup?
Yes, it doesn't trigger a restart of the pod. So if you create that, so you need to restart to trigger somehow. So I think that's what Predrag was mentioning, that you need probably to scale down and scale up so to trigger somehow the restart of the workspace to be able to inject the secret.
And
yeah,
go ahead.
Yes, I was thinking about something else. Instead of doing that, so another way would be to patch the definition of the workspace, because I think that Odo that's actually what they are doing. So in the dev file, in the definition of their development components, they have a service binding component, and so that's how they actually do the injection. So maybe something that we could do is that we could just update the definition of the workspace. So the dev workspace, that is a Kubernetes resource that is identical to a dev file. So we could just patch that, and then the workspace. So the controller will decide if it's needed to restart the workspace or not. But yeah, the pod will probably be restarted, the secret injected, and so on. That may be something that would work for Kubernetes workspaces. Is that something that is so? Are you familiar with how Odo dev files include service binding?
Well, I'm not really sure about that, how it works. So, Pratak, do you have any idea?
No, not really.
Okay. So,
Yeah, but so apart from that, so the
What do you think about the proposal from Mario?
I mean, without restart, we need this injection working without restarting. Is that a something that we cannot avoid? That absolute necessity thing? I mean, is that possible at all? That's my question. I mean, for example, mounting a volume mount, it need a restart, right? Otherwise, the approach that we
Yeah.
are taking right now requires a restart.
Yeah, but somehow, so if a developer is working in an IDE that is running remotely in a Kubernetes Workspaces pod, at that point, he will want to add service binding to a remote service, right? And he will then execute something. I'm not familiar with if that's a command line command or it will be an extension, Visual Studio extension, or both. But that should somehow trigger an update of the custom resource that defines the developer workspace, and that will do a reconciliation and will allow us to mount the volume. But yeah, that will probably need a restart of the pod. I think I don't think that will be able to do anything without actually restarting the pod. So yeah, I mean we there are some tricks that we have, like having a second pod where we mount the volumes and we can do like a synchronization with that. But those are like things that these are Kubernetes Workspace's internal tricks to avoid restarting. But yeah, so I think that we need to find out how you could actually change the dev workspace customer source definition. What's the best way to do that?
I can't think of anything. Is maybe if we have some kind of extension where, let's say, there is an agent listening on, and then that communication is happening, not through using this volume mount or an variable, rather another API which is listening, and then somebody else is picking up from there and making these values available. That's all could be a way, but that need more detailed thinking and research into that one. Then only we can, we need to try it out, and then only we can confirm whether it's possible or not. So offhand, I don't have anything else. If anybody else has any idea how we can achieve this without, so the crucial thing is that without restarting, we need these values available in the workspace, right? And at the moment, a service binding operator cannot do that. So how do we make this experience better? That's what Steven is looking for. So I guess
I mean,
right?
it's not me, huh?
yeah.
It's more how do we make our products working nicely all together?
Yeah.
That's something that is important, but you can feel that when there is pain, it's going to be felt by other people. And here in this context, it was someone from the Wildfly team. And I think this is a great opportunity because it is a use case that is showing and showcasing a lot of the different technologies that we are building. And of course, initially there might be quirks, but it's interesting to really iterate on that and look at what we can do in order to make the experience being smoother and smoother over time. And honestly, I think it is probably the first time somebody thought about doing something like that as well. So that's great. That's perfect.
Yeah. Maybe it's a good time to start thinking about an epic to work on this one.
So Steven, I'm trying to understand, what is it that CodeReady can do to make Wildflies easier? That
No. So I think so. Somebody from the Wildfly team was looking at creating a quick start on Dev Sandbox or a tutorial on Dev Sandbox with Managed Kafka. And for that, they wanted to use CodeReady Workspace because it's easier. It's providing the tool out of the box, working on Dev Sandbox. Perfect. So they, as part of the tutorial, they are writing some code for the Wildfly application into CodeReady Workspace. And at some point, they want to bind to Managed Kafka. So that is exactly the experience that we are looking.
But why should CodeReady work? That's what I'm trying. So you want to add a IDE feature to CodeReady Works that does something, or what's the?
For the binding, no. It's more the problem in the experience is that when you do the binding, when you create the binding, the service binding request, in order for the binding metadata to be available to the Wildfly application running inside of the workspace, there is a need to restart the workspace, the pod of the workspace.
Yeah, but okay, yeah, but that's why we don't do it in Quarkus. Like that's because we wanted the same thing. Like, but we just there's no way that we see that work. So yeah, if you can make it work, great. But it would be like a weird, like some, hey, you have to restart this thing, like the whole workspace, not just the container that you're launching, or
yeah,
but that's I don't see any. So honestly, I think we need to separate the two problems here. So there is the injection of the bindings. That is one problem, and that's what actually I think that the original problem was, and it was not possible to actually inject the bindings because of a problem. If you modify a workspace, then there is a problem with the reconciliation because the workspace is not supposed to be so the pod is not supposed to be patched by somebody else. Then there is a controller that it will do the reconciliation, and you will then lose the bindings that you just patched in the container. So that was the first problem. Okay, it's not. So I think that we can solve this problem. Then the other problem Max was talking about, like avoiding restarting the pod, I don't think we can solve that. To somehow restart. We can probably do. We can work to try to make it faster, or even not noticeable from the point of view of the user that is actually in his browser and may be offline for a few seconds, but he will still be able to code, so writing code, and it will just need a few seconds that we restart the container. So I would separate the two problems. So one, make it possible the scenario that is not currently possible today. That was the original issue. And then second, make it faster with better user experience.
Because what we just mean, like we do in Quarkus, because we've done this too. Is we deploy another container, like we run it as a separate thing. Because so,
but even with as another pod. Even
we use Quarkus to do the deployment because there's no other. We just like if like when you're running an IDE locally, we call up to OpenShift and sets up things. I wouldn't expect an IDE, whether it's web to inject service binding stuff that way. But if you can find a way,
the thing that the reason why we actually want to, so we are running in the same pods. I mean, we're running the IDE and the runtime in the same pod is because the source code is in a volume.
I get it, but that's what I'm saying. The corresponding to local development, we also have everything locally, but we don't. When we need the service binding, when we run locally, we don't use service binding because we don't have access. We have the same problem. We can't tell the service binding to inject to our local machine, and the same thing with the container that is running inside OpenShift. Code-Ready Workspaces is as powerful in quotes as a local development environment. Like it doesn't show up. It's not visible to rest of the cluster, right, where you want it to be. So what we do is locally we run in dev mode, and we bind services that way. And then when we want to do actually full service binding, we do a full deploy, and it's like not depending on any IDE, right? So I'm just curious, but it'll be
that is something that you do at the framework level.
Yeah, so if you do it for EAP, they will have their example to be able to deploy to something. Will have to be able to create that CR, right? So they have all that stuff. But if you can make it work, and even better, if you could also make Docker work, so I can use test containers in the Code-Ready Workspaces, we could demonstrate this for Quarkus too. That'll be awesome.
Have you discussed that with Parag for test containers?
We've discussed running Docker with them every year this last 5 years, so I can do it again. It's more.
But we do have the same challenge. In fact, you know why we cannot do Docker inside of Code-Ready Workspace. It's not because of us. It's because
I get it. But that's what I'm saying. Like the thing you're doing here with EAP just seems to be a very specific flow that will be only relevant for Code-Ready Workspaces, and EAP will still have to do the exact same thing to do it everywhere else. Like what as it basically deploys in a setup. So I was just curious if you had a way to not make it Code-Ready specific. That was just the thing.
So Predrag, Mario, Jasper, is it something that we want to follow up next year?
As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I would really need to try and to see, the whole workflow and the issue there, and then I could make some proposals. I have some ideas, yeah.
So I think it's a great opportunity to collaborate between Che and Service.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to understand if we can do something on if there is something to be done on the service binding side, and if not, what needs to be done but essentially my understanding is that the pods needs to be restarted. There is no a way around that, right? And so now who is going to, how we're going to trigger that restart? That's the question. Right, Mario? I mean,
Yeah. Let's. So, I think we should like set up a call to just play with that and try to reproduce the scenario so that we to get aligned with that.
Can you add me to that one? Because if you do it too for EAP, it'll work the same for Quarkus, I assume.
Can we just do before without actually on a separate call just to discuss the specific of Coterie workspaces, and then do another call with you, Max, as well, of course. But I would like
I just meant for the EAP and Quarkus. We don't want to have that we create something that it's a one way for EAP and a different way for Spring Boot and different way for Quarkus. So that was, but sure. Right.
What would, I mean, not sure, Mario, if you have time to do this, but it would be super helpful if you could make a video of that workflow showing us, the issue, and or some of your colleagues in the team.
So
maybe they already did this kind of video.
So I will step up on this. I think it would be nice that we do it from the service binding point of view, because it's also a good way for the service binding team to learn a little bit more about the other tools that exist. And in this context, it will be Che and Managed Kafka. And I think it's cool to look at that from this angle. It's a good opportunity to learn a little bit more about what the other tools are doing. Of course, we can leverage the other teams as much as we want, but I think it's a great opportunity, a good challenge.
Yeah, I fully agree. Just wanted to understand if there is already maybe some video demonstrating the issue, or
so just to clarify, it's
coming from Wildfly team.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. It's just that I've tried to follow with the Wildfly team what was going on, and I provided an explanation on why it was not working with Coterie workspaces, and then I think that I don't know service binding enough, so that's why I wanted to just have a separate call with a Coterie workspace assistant set up. Probably the person that have tried that we may ask to run a video to help us for that. But yeah, I'm not the one.
Who is it from the Wildfly team? Is it what's his name?
Let me check, Max. 1 second. It's Jean-François Denise.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a thread on Slack if you want, Max. I drop it in the chat window, but it's in the meeting notes
Cool.
as well.
I'll join there. Sure. But once you get to talk about like how it worked with Wildfly, and then I would like to be, because I want to make use of it. If I can find a way to do it in Quarkus, that'll be good. Because right now we have a hard time getting our stuff working on CoQuarkus without having to do it. It works everywhere except for Che, and then we have to adapt for Che. So if you can find a way to make it work the same, that'll be good.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So, and by the way, I think so. I was speaking about it's a good opportunity for service binding to learn about Che and Managed Kafka and to experiment it. But it's also a good opportunity for the Che team to experiment service binding and to know a little bit more about it as well. So, yeah. Right. So we can share knowledge here.
Yeah. So, anything else to add? Or
I have one thing there is a getting start that has been added for Quarkus, a blog post for Quarkus that has been added related to service binding operator. I'm just dropping the link to it. Unfortunately, I have not been able to look at that, and there is a new issue that has been created as well, and similarly, I don't know. I need to look at this one as well.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's a few news that I add on my side.
This is published somewhere, or this is just still draft?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, okay. There's a GitHub link. That's. If you are through this, I just have one more item. Basically, I want to ask what we are going to do with this next few days, holidays time, with our meeting, this public meeting. Should we meet again next week, or I don't know how many will be there available next 2 weeks, basically 23rd and December 30th. I hope at least by
I
January.
would say we canceled next week
Okay.
meeting. My
Oh.
my 2 cents on this.
Yeah. Anyway, so can we cancel 23rd and 30th, and then we can meet on 6th? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I will cancel that in the calendar for the next 2 weeks. So we'll meet again on 6th.
Okay.
I think we are through the topics.
Any sizing stock
Okay.
issues to take a look at?
Okay, that was something. Yes, let's see if there is it. Okay, there is Shobik added one issue. I don't know whether you need it. It's not. Okay, looks like wish to bind key clock. Okay, key clock is some simple sign on Java application, right? I mean, service or something like that. Okay, we can. It was the key clock was there in our list of services that we explored last time? Huh? I think so. Okay. Yeah, maybe don't need to discuss. I hope we can add into our list of services that we are exploring. My understanding is that key clock is something like a single sign-on service or something like that, right?
I don't remember that. Did we have it really on that list of services we explored? I don't remember that. But we can add
Oh
it
yeah,
to
key clock
that
was
list.
not there. Yeah, but this is could be a potential, candidate. If there is a demand coming up like this, we could look into that to support that one and see.
Okay. Yeah. It would be good to understand if this would be on our priority to take a look at. So
Which one? Sorry.
the SSO key cloak.
Okay, the issue which is the.
Did you want to share your screen, Baiju, to take a look?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a new one. Should be created.
To be created, yes. Yeah, Keycloak, I know it's a Red Hat sponsored open source project. No idea much beyond that. Yeah, my screen is visible, right? Yeah. So Keycloak samples. Okay, we don't have samples definitely, but to bind or anything, whether we can support that, that's something definitely we can check. Oh. Open source identity and access management for modern applications. Okay, sponsored by Red Hat. So it's a Red Hat open source project, something we could potentially keep it as a candidate for adding support, right? Any comments, Steven? That issue for it. So many tabs. yeah. Anyway, there is nothing much beyond that issue in that issue. So
Okay, so how are we classifying that right now? Is it just a question that needs to be addressed, or is it something that needs to be followed up on?
I added question label, and then so Steven, how do you see that kind of investigation as what kind of priority?
Or Red Hat SSO?
Keycloak in particular.
Yeah. It's Red Hat SSO is the name of the productized version of Keycloak, in fact. So in terms of prioritization, we need to look at how does it fit with regards to our efforts with the MongoDB operator and with Helm. And I think it's something we can look at. It could be a nice one to look at. So I don't know if it's something we will be able to do before middle of next quarter to be reasonable, but seems something interesting to look at.
Okay.
Any updates on the Vault study?
No, I didn't start the work yet.
Okay. And any update on the discussion with the StreamZ operator and Managed Kafka and the work that Kate was doing? Because I was not able to join the discussion this morning, but maybe.
I was there, and yeah, unfortunately, Kate left for another meeting. But it was a really interesting discussion, and they both sides presented what they have at the moment, what kind of resource, and those two reasons, despite different names, they're semantically pretty much equivalent. And my understanding is that they're gonna think about maybe even like unifying that into a single CR. But that was then the end of the meeting. So even if they don't do it, so the bindings and the structure of the bindings looks very similar, so that application can easily switch from StreamZ baked Kafka instances to managed Kafka instances. So it was a pretty interesting discussion.
Yeah.
And that StreamZ proposal is about to be merged. That's my understanding as well. So it got already, I believe, 3 approvals, and just a matter of probably a couple of days, they're going to merge that proposal. And then I don't know when they're going to start working with that, but it's already a good move.
Yeah. Then
okay.
I think thank you for the update. Thank you for the call. I think those kind of calls are the best one.
Yeah.
I
Okay, I think we are through the
cool.
agenda. Thank you all for joining the call. See you for next year probably. Yeah. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
Happy holidays season
holidays.
to everyone, and I guess take a good rest, recover, relax, and get back fully relaxed and fully refreshed for next year, 2022.
A lot of new technologies, a lot of new opportunities. So lots of work to do, but it'll be fun. Thank you everyone for all the great work that you've done this year. Looking forward to more. Enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing everything we've been seeding everywhere, growing and growing. So we need to put to see that happening next year. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.